All right, Coach. So you're getting ready for your academy camp. You want to make sure that welcome speech really connects. We've got a bunch of resources to help us figure this out. We've got excerpts from the Academy website. We've got some internal coaching guidelines. And we've even got a whole volleyball coaching guide. Oh, and there's even an article in here about coaching in the digital age.
It's kind of like we have a backstage pass to see how one of these top volleyball programs work.
Exactly. Our mission is to take all of this stuff
Hmm.
and turn it into a framework that you can use to make your speech. A speech that will inform, a speech that will inspire, and a speech that will really set the tone for a successful camp experience. So first, let's imagine ourselves at the Canadian Elite Academy, and their website gives us a really good picture of what they're all about.
Yeah, the first thing that jumps out at me is that they focus on advanced skill development. I mean, they're serious about this stuff. You need at least 2 years of experience and 10 prior academy sessions just to even be considered. Plus, they even ask about, if you've been on a provincial or school team. It's pretty clear. They're looking for players who are serious about leveling up their game.
And they're not shy at all about showing off how
Yeah.
committed they are to excellence. I mean, the website has all these awesome pictures, intense drills, players just crushing those spikes. You name it, you can just feel the energy through the screen.
Oh, and don't forget, they mentioned these Elite 1 and Elite 2 statuses
Yeah.
and off-season training. Makes you really curious about what those pathways are all about.
It's like there are all these levels of achievement waiting to be unlocked. Okay, so before we get into that, let's talk about the guy who's running this whole thing, Darren Cannell. He's the head coach. And he even wrote this whole coaching guide. This guy is seriously a legend. 30 years of coaching experience. He was even the president of the Saskatchewan Volleyball Association.
Yeah, that's a ton of experience. And going through his notes and the Academy's code of conduct, it's obvious that they care just as much about character as they do about skills. There's a lot of emphasis on coaches being role models and really living those values that they expect from the athletes.
It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world. But on the volleyball court.
Exactly. One thing that I thought was really interesting was this note about using intern coaches for demonstrations. Darren thinks that seeing someone closer to their age doing well can be really inspiring to younger athletes.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like if they can do it, maybe I can too.
Right. It makes them feel like they can achieve it too.
Okay, so the guide also has some pretty strict guidelines, especially when it comes to things like physical contact and social interactions.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're really focused on keeping the athletes safe and making sure those boundaries stay professional. It really shows that they're serious about creating a safe and respectful environment.
So now, let's really dive into the heart of Darren's coaching guide. This thing is super thorough. He talks about the history of volleyball, even beach volleyball, and then he goes into all the details, like the court, the equipment, how you score, you name it.
It's like he wants you to really understand the game inside and out. But here's where it gets really cool. He doesn't just list the player positions, he really explains how all the roles are connected and how each player's actions affect the whole team.
It's like that idea that volleyball isn't about having a few star players. It's about everyone working together.
That reminds me of when I was coaching a high school team. We had this really amazing outside hitter. She could just slam the ball like crazy, but she was so focused on her own attacks that she would forget about defense sometimes, and it caused some tension on the court.
I bet. It's like she was playing her own game instead of being part of the team.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't until we did this drill where everyone had to play every position that she finally started to get it. She saw the bigger picture and realized that those other roles, like digging and receiving, were just as important to the team winning.
It's amazing how a simple exercise like that
Yeah.
can help people understand and work together so much better.
It's like that saying, walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Sometimes the best way to learn is to experience it yourself. And that's what's so cool about how Darren explains it. He doesn't just tell you what each position does. He explains why and how it all works together.
It's like he's giving coaches this blueprint for building a team where everyone is on the same page.
Yeah.
Right from the start. So what else does he talk about in the guide? That could be helpful for our listeners' welcome speech.
Well, he spends a lot of time on skill development, attacking, blocking, digging, serving, serve, receive. He even talks about how to adjust training schedules for younger athletes because their bodies are still developing.
That's really important. You want them to improve, but you also don't want them to get hurt.
Right. It's all about finding that balance.
So that leads us to our next source.
Yeah.
This article about coaching in the digital age. Darren's guide is full of timeless advice, But this article tackles some newer challenges.
Yeah. Like all these internet kids, the article does a good job of explaining how technology can be a distraction for athletes, especially social media, and being connected all the time.
It can definitely be a double-edged sword. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so much information out there now and all these training resources, but it's also so easy to get distracted.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can't really just ban phones and the internet. That's not going to work.
No, it wouldn't.
So what's the answer?
Well, the author says that athletes have to be more responsible for managing their own focus. They have to push themselves, even when they're not with their coach. He has this great line. He says, "Focus must play a role in every aspect of an athlete's day."
So it's not just about going to practice and doing the drills.
Yeah.
It's about making good choices all the time.
Right. Little things like getting enough sleep, watching videos of their own games, even limiting how much time they spend on social media.
So how can we apply this to our listeners' welcome speech?
I think it's about showing them that they're in control of their own development. Instead of just saying, work hard, we can give them specific things they can do to get better, even when they're not on the court.
Like giving them the tools to become independent athletes who don't always need their coach to tell them what to do.
Exactly. And it goes back to that elite status on the Academy website. It suggests that being elite isn't just about skill. It's about having a certain mindset and being dedicated even outside of practice.
Speaking of dedication, our last source, Volleyball, Team Dynamics, Ethics, and Mentorship, really dives into the human side of the sport.
Yeah, this book is all about creating a positive team culture where athletes feel comfortable being themselves.
Yeah.
And they know they have support.
Okay, but how do you actually create that kind of environment?
Well, it's not easy. The book has some good tips. For example, it talks about clear communication, making sure that athletes feel like they can ask questions, talk about their concerns, even disagree with decisions sometimes.
So it's not just the coach giving orders, it's more like a conversation back and forth.
And the book also talks about the importance of mentorship, not just from coaches, but from older players too.
So it's like creating a community where everyone is learning and growing together.
And we can't forget about leading by example. Coaches have to show the same values they want their athletes to have. Respect for teammates, respect for opponents, good sportsmanship. It's all about actions speaking louder than words.
All right, Coach. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about setting the stage and making sure your players know what your academy is all about. We also talked about the importance of things like individual effort, teamwork, and sportsmanship.
Yeah, we even got into how being connected all the time can be a challenge for athletes and how they can develop a strong mindset, both on and off the court.
It's like we've given you this toolbox filled with all these ideas and strategies for creating a speech that your players will really remember.
Right. And as you're putting the finishing touches on your speech, remember that it's not just about giving them information. It's about connecting with them on a personal level.
Yeah, that's so important. You want them to feel welcome and like they belong there.
Exactly. And one way you can do that is by sharing a story from your own experience as a player or coach, something that really shows what those values and principles mean to you.
It's like saying, hey, I've been in your shoes. I know what it's like.
Right. When you share your own struggles and successes,
Yeah.
it makes you more relatable.
So instead of just listing a bunch of rules, you're inviting them to be part of something bigger.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that question we talked about earlier about legacy.
Oh, yeah. What do you want your players to take away from this experience, besides just improving their skills?
As you're standing there in front of all those athletes, think about the impact you want to have, not just on their volleyball careers, but on their lives.
Like planting a seed. That will grow into a passion for the sport and a desire to be their best.
Exactly. You have the power to shape them, not just into better volleyball players, but into leaders and mentors.
So, Coach, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive and that you feel ready to deliver an amazing welcome speech, one that will inspire your players and help them reach their full potential. Don't forget to share your speech with us and let us know what you think on social media using the show's hashtag.
And until next time, keep those serves strong and those spirits high.